Sir, we can start. Utpal sir.
Yeah, just give me 1 second. I'm opening my presentation. 1 second.
Yes, sir. Okay, sir. Can we start?
Yes, please.
Okay, sir. So, good morning to all. Present over here. Myself, Dr. Raghavendra Patidar, Convener, Institutions Innovation Council, Global Institute of Technology, welcomes you all audience present here. In this pandemic situation of COVID-19, it is better opportunity for all of us to enhance our knowledge and skills through such seminars and workshops on digital platforms. Hence, in the series of 4 power seminars, today is the third seminar on the topic Neuro-Quantum Artificial Intelligence. Quantum artificial intelligence is an interdisciplinary field that focuses on building quantum algorithms for improving computational tasks within artificial intelligence, including subfields like machine learning. Quantum AI and quantum computing are transformational technologies enabling a revolutionary future. By not taking so much time, let's start this power seminar by introducing our speaker, Mr. Utpal Chakravarti. Mr. Utpal is an eminent data scientist, AI researcher, strategist, and thought leader with more than 2 decades of industry experience, including as a principal architect in L&T Infotech, IBM, Capgemini, and other MNCs. At the moment, he is head of artificial intelligence at Yes Bank. Mr. Utpal is a well-known speaker and author on artificial intelligence, IoT, as well as Agile and Lean, and has spoken at conferences around the world. His recent research on machine learning, titled Layered Approximation for Deep Neural Networks, and his books Artificial Intelligence for All and Artificial Intelligence and Fourth Industrial Revolution, has been appreciated at several conferences, institutions, and universities. He has also demonstrated a few out-of-the-box hybridized Agile and Lean implementations in different industries. I am pleased to welcome you, sir. Over to you, sir.
Thank you so much. So let me share my screen. So is my screen visible?
Yes, sir, it's visible.
Can you see my presentation?
Yes, sir.
Quantum computing in banking and finance?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So first of all, thank you so much for inviting me for this webinar. And last time, due to some technical problem, we could not have this session, and apologies for that. So the topic that I'm going to discuss today is not the theoretical part of quantum computing, because that again a different topic altogether, wherein you require a different kind of workshop kind of a thing. It's not that kind of thing. Rather, I would concentrate more on like how quantum computing is actually penetrating into different industries, including banking and finance, and what are the use cases, and if any financial organization they want to start their quantum journey, how essentially they can start it. So those are the things that I'm going to cover in this presentation. So I'm hoping, like many of you are already aware of the quantum dynamics principles and theories and the technical details. But if some of you are not aware of that also, that doesn't matter, because again, I'm not going to go into the technical aspect of it. So am I audible, by the way? Am I clearly audible?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Okay. Thank you so much. So if we look at the the transformation journey that has started, say probably a decade back, or probably more, uh, in terms of digital transformation. So there is a huge transformation that is going on in all the industries in last probably 1.5 decades. And this transformation is basically to essentially, I mean, there are many other things. It's not only the digital part of it, but many other. So there are many technologies that came together to bring this golden era, you can say, of digital revolution, right? And the entire industry, may it be finance, may it be medicine, healthcare and medicine, may it be retail, may it be manufacturing, or whatever it is. I mean, they are going through a revolutionary transformation, right? And this transformation actually started with what we call digitization. And digitization is something like we all know, like how we can actually digitize our physical services. And if we talk today, almost every physical services, wherever it is possible, now been digitized, right? So if I ask you, like, tell me 5 services which are not yet digitized or which cannot be digitized, I mean, you will have a hard time to actually answer those 5 different fields, because almost everywhere digitization has its footprint. Now, if we take the digitization as kind of a hygiene today, now industry is actually moving towards cognification. So when I say cognification, I mean, you will not find this word in dictionary. It is not there, but I frequently use this word because I think this is a word which fits into the current process of digitization that we are doing. Cognification, you can say that it is the topmost layer of digitization. Okay, so it is the most advanced part of digitization, wherein actually we are trying to bring the cognitive element, the human cognitive element, into our digitization process. That means we are trying to make our systems, our solutions, our machines more and more intelligent. Okay, so we are trying to bring some element of human intelligence into our digitization process, which is called cognification. Now, and the technologies that enable this cognification are definitely artificial intelligence. So artificial intelligence is a umbrella term. There are a lot of technologies that come under artificial intelligence. So like machine learning is one big area. And again, under machine learning, there is something called deep learning, which is basically like inspired by human brain, the neural networks. And also some other technologies are also involved there, like NLPs, natural language processing, or any kind of conversational AI, and all other things. And also another new and other things are already there, like definitely big data is one of the blessing for this decade, you can say, right? So it is only because of big data, okay, all other things that are happening in the area of artificial intelligence are possible, right? Otherwise, so that's why I say it like it is not one technology. Okay, the credit should not go to one technology. It is multiple technologies: big data, IoT, IIoT, artificial intelligence, and then now quantum computing, all together came together to bring this golden era of digital revolution. Okay, so and it happens in any revolution. If you look at, like if you go back to our history, and if you think of any golden era, so it is not one aspect that has bring about that golden era. It is the multiple aspects come together at the same time in a synchronized way. Okay, and that uh, brought about this kind of a golden era or a golden revolution, you can say. And now the enablers for this cognification are, as I told you, big data, artificial intelligence, machine learning, IoT, and now quantum computing. So these are the enablers, and and the enterprises basically, they are revolutionized in terms of their products, in terms of the processes, in terms of their even their strategies. So that means basically everything is being revolutionized. It's not only the products and processes; it is also the strategies. Okay? So everything has been touched by this what do you call wave of digitization or cognification. You see. Okay, so this is what it is happening today, and quantum computing, although in a very nascent state at this point of time, but quantum machine learning is coming up in a very big way. And just to tell you, already many companies have started working on those, and there are some real applications or real solutions that have been that has already been built using quantum computing. Only the democratization of or widespread application of quantum computing is still not happening in that way because of some of the limitations that I will be discussing in a couple of my slides. But if you look at the possibilities that quantum computing can bring, it is enormous. It is simply enormous. Okay, so quantum computing is going to be one of the milestone, okay, in the history of technological revolution that has happened or that is going to happen um, in the technological arena. Okay, so it is not less than like invention of fire and all, right? So it is very important in that because it is a technological jump, you can say. Okay, it's not like that is the incremental something. Okay, so normally for every technology, normally you will see when we call a technological jump is basically when it is altogether a new approach of doing something, right? So that is actual technological jump. But normally for other technologies, what you will see, it's the incremental change or incremental kind of a what do you call upgradation of the approach and upgradation of the things, right? But quantum is not like that. Quantum is not intelligent. It is altogether a completely different concept, completely different way of working, completely a different approach of working. So that's why quantum computing is very important. And also at the same time, it is very difficult for many people to digest this kind of technology, right? I mean, because people who are still in a very conventional kind of a approach or kind of thing. So you will find in many industries, even people sitting there, they are still in a conventional kind of a what do you call approach they take. So for them, I mean, even thinking of quantum, how it is going to revolutionize or apprehending, it is going to be a little bit difficult. But yeah, but time will force every one of us to think in a quantum way going forward. That is for sure. Okay, and you can take my word for that. That is definitely going to come. It is already coming, but in couple of years, it is going to be in a big way. Now, as I will be talking more on the financial side, so because I think for this kind of a webinar, I mean we should concentrate on one particular industry rather than I can talk about other industries also, but I thought like I'll concentrate more on the financial part because it is easy and everybody can understand this particular industry. So, in finance, how and why, basically, why quantum computing is going to come in a big way, or why there is a demand and there will be a huge demand quantum kind of a solutions in finance. So that is because it is not only finance, whatever business it is, okay, if it is generating or dealing with a humongous amount of multi-dimensional complex data, okay, they will definitely one way or the other way, they will be uh, forced to or compelled to use quantum computing for their competitive advantage in future. Okay, it is required. So banking and finance, if you look at, it is a data intensive business. It is, in fact, if you look at the core in today's digital banking and all those things, it is all nothing but manipulation of data only. Okay, so it is data, playing with the data completely. So and quantum machine learning. So machine learning that is run on quantum, or machine learning algorithms developed for quantum computers, is going to give a real-time insight of this kind of a data. Okay, and this could be anything. So when I say real-time insight, it could be insight, it could be recommendation, it could be whatever format. There are numerous possibilities. Okay, it's not one possibility. There are numerous possibilities for that. And this is one area that every financial institution today or tomorrow has to explore. They will have to explore. It is not an option, it is a compulsion. Okay, so that is one reason. Number two is, like, as banking and financial institutions, they know their customer much more intimately. Definitely QML kind of a quantum machine learning kind of a thing will bring about many highly relevant recommendations or highly relevant forecasting and all other things into their products, processes, whatever it is. I mean, even for their internal planning and strategies also, it is going to be required. So this is the reason, and don't take this slide as a what do you call, banking kind of or finance kind of. No, it applies for almost all the industries, because now it is most of the industries, most of the enterprises are data-driven enterprises, or they are into data-intensive business. Okay? So definitely, the scope for quantum computers is for actually any what do you call, enterprises. Is not specific to a particular business or not specific to a particular business. Now coming to, again, little bit, if we go a little bit deeper into the fact that why quantum computing in finance, because many people have a lot of questions in their mind, right? And these are all genuine questions. These are not like questions that can be thrown away. Essentially, because during artificial intelligence also, people used to ask why there is a where is artificial intelligence in banking or in finance? Okay, how it is relevant? So these are questions. So now people has got some answers for that in artificial intelligence, but now people are asking why quantum computing in finance? Why it is required? Because quantum computing is a physics thing. It's a highly technical physics kind of a thing. Why it is in a financial industry? It is no way relevant to that. So people used to have this kind of questions in their mind. Now to answer that question, if you look at from the core, okay, the entire finance industry is full of complex mathematical problems. Okay, it is actually mathematics, nothing but. If you drill down and if you go to the core of the subject or of the field, it is nothing but mathematics. Okay. Second thing is, there are some amount of uncertainties, okay, in the field of finance, or you can say risks. Okay. Now, when you need to understand one thing, when uncertainty or risk comes into picture, when you don't know some of the parameters, or you are not being able to some of the parameters which contribute to a particular incident, right? So why there is an uncertainty in raining, okay, whether this year it will rain or not, it will rain properly or not, whether the crops will be good this year or not. These are some uncertainties or some kind of risks, you can say. Wherever there is uncertainty, definitely there is a risk associated with that. Why it is that? Because we don't know some of the parameters which is contributing to that particular event, right? So now finance industry is, but if we know that parameters, then definitely probably there will be no uncertainties, because this kind of events, like whether it will rain or not, okay, whether it will rain adequately or not, or whether there will be a good crop this year or not, there are many parameters. There are hidden parameters also, okay, which we as a human don't know, but there is a science behind that. There is because the whole universe is basically what do you call? It is completely governed by principles, and these principles are very strict principles. There are no exceptions. Okay, so and it is completely what do you call? It's a completely unbiased kind of a system, the entire universe. Okay, it is not like that it is good for me and it is good, bad for you. No, it is completely unbiased kind of a system, and it will act exactly the same way with you and also with me. The only difference is probably sometimes we see why this has happened to me, because and why this has not happened to him, because we don't know the parameters. There are very many problems, thousands, millions of uh, uh, hidden parameters, small parameters that we don't know, and that's why we are saying that, oh boss, this is completely uncertain, there is bad luck, this is the that, and all those things, right? But if you can find out those parameters and how they are contributing to the overall or the ultimate event, then probably we'll be able to find out, no, oh, because of this only this has happened, right? So here also uh, in finance, there are a lot of uncertainties, and as there are uncertainties, there are risks, and this is only because many of the parameters, small parameters, humanly or normal machine learning or normal technology approach, we are not being able to consider those, and because of that, what we think or what we assume, it doesn't happen in that way, because once the parameter changes, the ultimate outcome also changes, right? So number two. Number three, there are a lot of optimization problems here. So there are many areas where there is a scope for optimization. Okay. So and it is for all. There are many numerous examples actually, starting from your capital market, in your normal banking, okay, consumer banking, or any other insurance area. Everywhere there are lot of optimization problems are there, or there are a lot of areas where there is a scope for optimization. And if we can optimize that, then definitely we can serve our customers better, we can do forecasting better, we can save our cost, we can give more reliable services to the customer. Many things are there, right? And these three things, if you look at, quantum computing can solve all the three in one way or the other, because quantum computing has a huge computational power, which is, this is completely parallel in nature. Okay. Number two, it is quantum machine learning algorithms are much more superior than any other testing, because this is altogether a completely different approach. So, and you can take care of many of the parameters today, which you cannot consider due to the limitations of our normal classic computing environment. Okay. So in that way, if you look at all the three problems, solving complex mathematical problems, dealing with the uncertainties, okay, so we can take more hidden parameters into consideration with quantum computing, and definitely the uncertainties becomes very less. More of the things are basically known things for us, will become known things for us rather than uncertainties, because as we don't know what is going to happen, so it is not going to be like that. And second thing, we can do a lot of optimization into the entire field, and this will overall improve the entire landscape of banking and finance. Okay, so this is why quantum computing and finance, and this is why this is quantum computing is already one of the major investor. Banking and finance one of the major investor of quantum computing, and it is going to be one of the major the adaptation of quantum computing will be huge in banking and finance. Now, coming to a few key areas of quantum computing, where basically in finance, how it is basically essentially uh, impacting the areas is basically, one is the prediction. So this is if you look at, this will be completely aligned with machine learning, but a very advanced version of machine learning, right? Okay, which is not possible through any kind of classical, even supercomputer, it is not possible, which is possible in by implementing QML, right? So, but it will resonate. This slide will, in many ways, resonate to AI and machine learning kind of things. But it is not actually. I'm not talking about AI, normal, classical AI and machine learning here. So, quantum computing is going to revolutionize in the field of prediction. Okay, it can predict up to an accuracy of multiple thousand times that we do today. Okay, with the conventional approach. Okay, multiple thousand x at the level of that. Okay, so any kind of prediction, and these predictions could be anything. I mean, so customer this kind of prediction. There are different kind of predictions. I mean, in the banking, I'll not go into this. Similarly, in the risk profiling side. Okay, so when you do any kind of risk profiling, so again, uncertainty comes into picture here. Okay, so same thing what I talked about in the last slide. And optimization, of course. So optimization is one area which is so, and it is optimization is not only in finance area. Okay, it is in all other areas also. For example, in aviation, okay, there are a lot of opportunities for optimization. In manufacturing, there are a lot of opportunities for it. In logistics, there are a lot of opportunities for optimization. Okay. Similarly, in banking also, there are a lot of optimization. Optimization means whatever we are doing today, okay, we are ignoring multiple parameters, okay, and because of that, okay, the outcome that is coming, it is not optimized. It is still there are scopes for optimization. But if we can do those things in a much more, so there are many Monte Carlo things and all other things. Okay? So I'll not go into depth into that. So many banks they are doing a lot of Monte Carlo things and all. Okay, so. So those things can easily be done with quantum computing. So almost similar to previous slide, nothing new in that slide. But this slide is a little bit important, okay, in terms of who wants to understand what are the actual use cases which some of the banks are already started working on that, especially outside banks, not Indian banks. Indian banks has not yet started. But as far as my knowledge is concerned, one very big bank, they have started building a quantum COE, okay, and they are partnered with Microsoft, okay, and they will be experimenting with some of this thing. So this is the information, internal information that I have got. It is not yet public. So I will not take the name of the bank, but this is the only thing that has started in the banking sector in India. But in other countries, yes, it is already many banks has started doing in a small or medium way, okay, and they are also getting benefited out of that. So these are real applications, real which are running kind of thing. But use case wise, if you look at, okay, so these are the areas where in the entire gamut of banking and finance, so where quantum computing will bring about a revolution. And these areas are essentially, one area is definitely a big area is capital market, okay, wherein actually a lot of optimization is required. In fact, it is an area of optimization. Okay, so and also there are a lot of trends, this, that, and all those things that you can find out from this particular area, and where quantum computing can help. Another area is basically credit risks. So before giving any kind of a credit or financial aid to any person, any individual, or any organization or any enterprise, okay, any financial institution used to assess the risks of giving that financial uh, uh, aid, which we call loans, basically. Okay, in layman's term, it is loan. So, so credit risk is basically what are the risks associated with giving credit to either a person or an organization or an enterprise, okay, kind of thing. And the third area is a very hot area. It has been hot always, and it is going today also. It is hot, and it is going to be hot forever. That is fraud area, because as you all people know, so there is a parallel industry, okay, which is called cyber crime industry, right? And because why I call it industry? Because they are not doing it for fun. It is a business today. Okay, it is an organized business, organized crime today. So this area. So in this area also, every financial institution, or for that matter, any organization, they lost billions of dollars together. Okay, probably it will go to trillions. Okay, every year because of this fraudulent activities, because of hacking, because of anti-money laundering, this, that, and all those things. Okay, and they are helpless, especially. I mean, and most of the times I have seen. Okay, they are helpless. Okay, money goes, and after that, then they do the remediation action. Because these cyber criminals, they are also scientists. Okay, so we are good scientists, they are bad scientists, but they are scientists. Okay, they are also equally talented. Probably, I would say sometimes they are more talented. Okay, and they come up with very new innovative ideas. Okay, and because they will have to come up with those kind of ideas because that is their bread and butter, right? So if it is your own business and that is your bread and butter, then definitely you will have to come up with new ideas to sustain or survive, right? So that's why these fraudsters are also coming up with very brilliant ideas. In fact, the normal people like us, okay, we cannot even think of. So that's why I call them scientists, but bad scientists, notorious scientists. Okay, so we are also scientists, but we are good scientists. We are doing it for good, but they are doing it for bad things. So these are the three areas. So in capital market, now we'll go one by one. In capital market, portfolio optimization. So I don't know how many people are in the audience. I don't know they understand finance well, but you people should understand because although probably you are engineering students or something like that, but ultimately you will have to work for some company, right? And every organization have their own domain. So those who will be working on banks or in the IT sector, IT division of bank and all those things, they will have to know banking. Those who will be working on manufacturing, they will have to understand manufacturing. So it is not like that I know only computer science and that's all. Okay, ask me only about computer science. Don't ask me anything else. No, that doesn't happen in this industry. So you have to know because ultimately you will be working somewhere wherein that domain plays the entire game. So to understand that game, you will have to understand. So, but I don't know because I cannot see it in the audience or the what do you call their profiles. But on an average, on a high level, portfolio optimization is a very big area. Okay? So every investment portfolio that you have, so there are optimization problems and where it is though, and the financial market is basically based on this only, right? So this is a very big problem, and this is the core of financial market or capital market, you can say. So this is an area where quantum computing is the god. Okay, so I am saying God because there is a meaning to it. Okay, so this is the silver bullet. Okay, nothing else can be able to solve it in that way, which quantum computing can do. So as I am told, still quantum computing is in an nascent state, although it has in, what do you call the evolution has happened and it is in a good stage now, but still some more improvements are required because there are still outside interferences in the quantum particles, basically, which is actually running on the quantum processor. And those particles are still being interference by the outside universal particles, right? Particles, although we take it to a very what do you call in a very cold environment, but still there are outside interference. Because of that, sometimes the results given by quantum computer are not as accurate as possible. Second thing is qubits. Okay, so as the number of qubit increases, then the power of quantum computer increases exponentially. Okay, it is completely exponential. So I hope, and it is not only me, but every quantum scientist, they are hoping or they are speculating that within a couple of years we will get some very powerful quantum computing with more number of qubits, so that we can solve many other problems, which is not possible today. Okay? Today, still it is limited. And there is a third thing also. So I'll talk about that in my other slides. So this is portfolio optimization. Then optimal trajectory. So I'll not go into the optimal trajectory and all those things. So the minimal optimal trajectory is also in financial industry. There are a lot of problems which is related to this, and so quantum computing can help there. Trend and anomaly detection. Okay, so there are many anomaly detections, anomalies, okay, that may happen because of unknown parameters in financial industry, and understanding the trend. Okay, so for example, in market also, how the market trend is. Okay, today it is all like, I mean, guesstimate plus some amount of technological innovation has happened there, and with that they do it. But still, it is not at all predictable. Okay, if some bad news comes into that, the market crashes, okay, or goes in a different way, kind of thing. So, but actual trend analysis and all those things with all micro parameters is very essential, and which will be done by quantum computing. Market crash prediction is again related to this. So this again, this use cases or applications are interrelated. Right? These are not isolated kind of thing. Okay, so one way or the other way, this contribute to each other kind of thing, right? So market crash is again is basically dependent on multiple other factors. Okay? So this is not. In the credit risk area, I already told you, okay, before giving any kind of credit, how we can actually identify the risk. So there are already models, machine learning models already available, and many banks, including many Indian banks are using those kind of models, right? Those are machine learning models. But here it will be altogether a different kind of a ball game, right, with quantum computing, and we'll be able to do it in a much more efficient way. Portfolio supervision is another thing. Buying propensity of customers. Okay, what are the buying propensity of different customer segmentation, this, that, and all those things. So starting those will be, and this is nothing but, I mean, core of the thing is starting out data, right? You have got data, you have got parameters, you have got everything. How you can chart it out, right? I mean, the name could be anything and everything, but ultimately that is the thing, right? So that is possible through because it can actually process data in a much efficient, much faster, and much real-time manner. That way. Fraud detection I talked about a little bit. So fraud, this fraudulent arena or fraudulent landscape is versatile. So there are many types of frauds. So I have mentioned only a couple of frauds like credit card frauds. Okay, in the credit card transaction they do fraudulent. Anti-money laundering is kind of these are mainly used for any kind of terrorist funding or any kind of illegal activities or any kind of buying any kind of weapons and all those things, right? So actually the illegitimate money or wealth is getting entered into banking system, and then they go cross border, and those are used for different kind of illegal activities, correct? So this is anti-money laundering. So here also quantum computing can play a major role to detect those kind of. Then tax frauds are there, instant money transfer frauds are there. In the cyber security area or in the area of cryptography also, quantum computing is going to play a major role. So it has got advantage as well as risks, because the quantum cryptography is going to be, and it is already been in DARPA and all other this thing, and also in US military, in many of the things already they are cryptography, okay, is basically quantum proof or quantum attack proof, because your normal cryptographic approach, quantum computer can actually break in couple of seconds, right? So whatever may be the however strong may be your cryptographic algorithm, quantum computer can break. So that's why now people have come up with something called quantum proof cryptography, and that cryptography area is also, and in finance sector also it is very important, right? So we also do all kind of transaction and all those things in a very cryptographic secure manner. So here also quantum computing is going to play a major role. Am I audible, guys? Because I'm talking, I'm not getting any feedback.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Now coming to potential areas of benefits in quantum computing is basically, so it is all again approach is data and algorithm. Okay, so these are the two things, and with that only the whole gamut or whole entire game is basically staged, right? So it will be used for investment gains. Okay, so where actually I can invest, where I'll get more benefits and kind of things, and also it will look at new investment possibilities. Okay, probably apparently it may look like it is not a potential or a good way, a good portfolio to invest or something like that. But with that, you can actually do a prediction. No, it apparently it may look like that, but actually it is a very potential investment opportunity. So then reducing the capital. So nobody wants to have a lot of capital burden, right? So how you can actually reduce your capital and increase your gain on that. So that is also one area where quantum computing is going to. Then compliance related areas also. So there are many compliance related areas. So every financial institution are actually struggling with that, and there used to be a huge team who actually only deals with the compliance area. Okay, regulatory and compliance area is a very big area in the entire finance industry, and banks and financial institutions are bound to comply with that. Okay, I mean that is the topmost priority. Okay, adhering to the regulatory things and compliance. Okay, in this area also quantum computing can actually process humongous data and can take care of a lot of compliance related issues. So it will become very easy. In fact, with very less human intervention, you can actually, while doing something only, or if you want to do any kind of postmortem also, these things can be done in a very easy way using quantum computing. And similarly in the risk management, I talked about risk management. So now, if any, so this is not for any financial organization. This is for any enterprise. So the question normally comes to me sometimes from many organizations, their top management, that hey Utpal, so you are like advocating about quantum computing. So we have not yet started with AI, and now you have started talking of quantum. So where to start, how to start? So I used to tell them, no, I'm not talking a different thing. It is an extension to what we did. What we did was, because this is a step-by-step process. So and quantum is definitely going to help a lot in this. Now to answer the question, where to start, is basically we'll have to take a baby step, because as I mentioned, and as I keep on mentioning, these technologies are still evolving technologies. Okay, even if we talk about AI also, machine learning also, these are evolving technologies. Every day it is evolving, and newer things are coming up. Okay, some of the gray areas are becoming much more clear and greener, right? So here, little bit of experimentation, little bit of R&D is always necessary, right? So that's why first thing is try to find out some use cases or applications. Okay, so do a detailing that yes, probably this is, and because that depends on domain to domain, right? So probably we don't know in a chemical domain what is happening, okay, or we don't know in a heavy industry or a coal mine what is happening or what is, okay. Probably in their application also there is a scope for quantum computing, but we don't know, right? If it is a chemical research, yes, of course, definitely there will be a lot of things, because they play with molecular structure, this, that, and all those things. And now these are all been kind of done in a digital environment and a simulated environment nowadays. The dark discovery and all those things are happening, right? So the the vaccine, corona vaccine or COVID vaccine uh, that people are taking. Okay, it took only 1.5 years to develop that vaccine. It is only possible because of AI and all other things. Okay, because many of the things which used to take years, okay, 5 years, 10 years, are being done in a simulated environment. Okay, those molecules. So the drug discovery process, if you look at, okay, it starts with say they will take thousands of molecules, and then they'll do that. So I'm talking about drug discovery, but there are processes for this also, vaccine development also, and here also many of the things before it comes to animal and human trial, many things are now being done in a simulated environment. Okay, and that's how they can cut short the time frame. Okay, for go to market, and that is the reason. I mean, within we used to take 15, 20 years to develop a vaccine. Now it is done in 1 year, 1.5 year, and the vaccine is working. I think good. It is not bad. Okay, so uh, so first of all, we'll have to see what are the use cases in a particular domain, and then uh, we need to look at whether there is a existing algorithm available for this kind of problems or not. Whether we can use, so directly if you want to start creating a circuit, so their algorithm and circuits are there basically, those who understands quantum computing. Uh, so that is again a costly process, and there are a lot of things. Many times you will not get it free. Or if you get it free, it will be very very limited kind of thing. It will not be that robust. So try to identify or find out if there are existing algorithms available. Okay, and if you can tweak that algorithm for your purpose and all, and build a small team, a COE probably, with couple of or one or two experts. Expert means whatever. So none of us are that much expert today because this is the evolving field, right? A new field, it is coming. So claiming that no, I am an expert on quantum computing, it will be wrong. Okay, but whatever knowledge we have, okay, if somebody is coming from a quantum physics background or quantum dynamics, he understands, along with quantum computing and machine learning, of course. So build a team and try to explore some of those kind of things, those kind of algorithms. Probably build a small POC, okay, first, proof of concept, and then go for a big implementation if it is successful. Okay, because there is still a huge amount of risks that if you invest money, okay, and you get some paid services for either from D-Wave or from Microsoft Azure or from any other this thing, okay, or Honeywell. Okay, so these are quantum computing service providers like Microsoft had started probably 1 year back or 6 months back. D-Wave is the market player, so you can say, because they have got a lot of quantum services which are actually for business implementation. Uh, but there is an investment, right? And you don't know whether it will work or not, how much time. So that's why I think this kind of approach is good. Do experimentation, start with a small team, try to tweak the existing things which are available rather than start writing your own in a completely different way. Okay, and then once it is successful, then you can go for uh, 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 a big project which can be actually productionized. Okay, so this is the approach. Now coming to a few of the challenges that are there at this point uh, for implementing any kind of quantum computing thing in any organization is, first of all, as I told you, it is an evolving field. Okay, so still it requires some kind of maturity. Okay, because I have been experimenting with a couple of free services that are available in uh, a couple of these things, and I also got, as I do a little bit of research, I got some special services free of cost from a couple of service providers. So what I feel is still it will require some time to mature. Okay, at least another 1 2 years, and this pandemic has actually slowed down this process and all those things because people were not been able to concentrate much on that because ultimately all are humans and every country is struggling. So, but my as per my calculation, probably another 2 to 3 years it will require before we get widespread quantum services available where we can take it from cloud and start implementing. So that is one challenge right now. Second thing is cost. So actually, if you want to implement something which is production grade, okay, for that definitely there is a cost, and this cost is huge, okay, and probably individually or many of the small organizations will not be able to afford it, okay, or also probably if they can afford it also, they will look at the ROI, okay, because every organization looks at the things in a different way, okay, so for them it is not a experiment because they are not a R&D company, okay, so they look at it like, okay, I am putting some money right now for this particular technology or this thing, how much return I am going to get, so they do look at it, and that should be the way people should look at business. Otherwise, I mean, it will be very difficult for that business to sustain. So, so there is an investment, and you need to take a right decision. Like uh, the investment that you are making on a particular project, whether what are the chances of that project to be successful or not. Okay, so that is one area, and also there is another area. Basically, it is, see, sometimes things fails, but that gives a lot of what do you call cascading effect. Okay, so it is not only in terms of the money, but also in terms of uh, the vibe or the message that goes into the top management or the message that goes into the other stakeholders. मतलब नहीं यार, ये चलता नहीं है, or it doesn't work. Okay, and that will slow down your process for another 5 years, 6 years. Probably they will close down your quantum COE. Okay, and you will have to search a job in some other organization. So that is also one factor. Okay, so that's why we should be very calculative in terms of the chances of a project being successful, because a project being failure has a lot of repercussions in many areas. Okay? So that need to be seen. Third thing is widespread availability. Definitely, still it is not available. So, like any other services, the quantum services are not available in the market so widespread manner. Okay, so whatever you want, neither you will get a lot of codes in GitHub that you can reuse or you can do and you can this thing. So that is also not possible at this moment. So there will be a little bit of material, but not much or not much this thing. So that also will take little bit of time, and there are very less quantum scientists also, right? I mean, I'm not only talking about India, but if you worldwide also, there are very less people who actually knows quantum, who are working on quantum or something like that, right? So because of that also, I think there are very less resources in the internet. Okay, so internet should be actually full of resources in terms of algorithms, in terms of materials, reading materials, in terms of trainings, in terms of all other things. So those things also, it is a challenge at this point of time, and I think the situation is going to improve in a couple of years. That is for sure, because this is a very very hot field, and it is, nobody can ignore it. Okay, that is for sure. Nobody can ignore it. Okay, the earlier you start, you will be in the upper hand. Okay, the more you delay, so you will not be able to be a fast mover. Okay, that is for sure. Quantum is going to come in a very big way, and quantum machine learning is going to be a very great combination. It's in fact a killer combination. It will be. So with that, I'll stop here. If there are any questions, I'm ready to answer.
Students, if want to ask question, then you can write in the chat box. Students, if want to ask question, then write in chat box. Okay, sir. No question. Uh, thank you very much, sir, for this enlightening and knowledgeable session. And we assure you that this session will provide an exposure to all the students, participants, in terms of enhancing their knowledge in the related domain. Also, thanks again for giving us valuable time for this power seminar. I'm also thankful to ICT Academy for their efforts in organizing this power seminar for the students of Global Institute of Technology. Also, very special thanks to all precious student participants to make this power seminar meaningful. Thanks
Thank
again,
you.
sir.
Thank you, sir.
I'm ending this session, sir.
Yes.
Have a
thank
nice
you.
day. Good day.